Welcome back, everybody, to Beer Garden Tennis. My name's Josh. I'm the armchair fan here, and I'm here with Culfie. How you going, Culfie?
Yeah, good, Josh. Good to be back. Plenty to talk about. Wimbledon is going on, of course, and we've got a problem with a few things, but we'll get onto that, later on in the program.
We do. And Culfie is our expert on and off the court, being a very accomplished collegiate player, if you're just joining the show, and now he's a professional tennis coach. So let's just jump straight in. We didn't get a chance to cap off our French Open discussion, and we may as well just talk about the final, the men's final. And I'm sure that that's where your notes have come from that I can see you've got over there. I picked early that I thought Alcaraz would win it, which was the eventual result. But how did you think that final played out? Because I think it was a more complex and less routine final than what a lot of the media were making it out. I thought the gap between the two players was nowhere near as big as what some of the media that was in the lead up to that match was making it out to be.
Yeah, and Zverev, I thought, was in peak form coming in. We did discuss at the start of the championships that he was my pick to finally get that coveted first Grand Slam title, and then hopefully it knocks the door down that's been really in front of him since the start of his career as a professional on tour. But it wasn't to be. Once again, it was just an interesting final from the context of, both guys played tremendous tennis to gain the momentum in that final, and then the wheels fell off for 15 to 20 minutes for both guys at one stretch or another for the first three sets. For Zverev to find a way to be 2-1 up, it was, okay, this is it. He played phenomenal tennis in that third set where he basically fought back from that, the brink of losing that third set. He hit the ball bigger than ever off the forehand. He started to take chances, hit the corners, and Alcaraz showed signs of nervousness and really sort of blinking like a bit of a deer in headlights. So it was just crazy, those first three sets, very physical tennis. But then out of nowhere, and it was just surprising, Zverev looked incredibly unsettled. He started arguing with his father in the box that first game of the fourth set. Out of nowhere, his father and coach looked confused, like, what are you doing, son? Like, you're 2-1 up. It's right here. Keep your mind in the game here. And it was just bizarre. It was like he was surprised to be 2-1 up after really he probably figured that, well, it looks like I'm going to be 2-1 down here. Played phenomenal 15 to 20 minutes to wrestle the momentum back. And then when he had the momentum, he gave it right back by basically looking like he was fearful or scared, for lack of a better term. Alcaraz saw that, and then it just opened the door for Alcaraz to hit his forehand. The last two sets, he hit his forehand as big as ever, and he just dictated from the back of the court. And Zverev, as we've seen it before, just battled with himself mentally, emotionally, and in the end, it was another one that really got away from the big German, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. And the mental side of things, obviously, we don't want to get too deep into psychoanalyzing athletes at that level, but there was a point in that match where all of the things he was able to do through other matches against really big hitters, against even Alcaraz in the past, and at times in that match early when Alcaraz did have some pop on the forehand and was hitting it hard, all the things that were working for Zverev that he could trust, because he's an absolute, for a man of that size, like no one's Medvedev, but he is an absolute brick wall. And it's like he just lost trust in the fact that he could defend some of the same levels of power that he'd already defended well through the tournament and in that match at different, maybe not through periods like Alcaraz just started hitting the skin off the ball and so cleanly. But to me, it wasn't just Alcaraz's level raise. That was like contemporaneous with just some random, no, he's gone to a level I can't compete with. And instead of trying to push up, Zverev kind of just tailed off. But some of them weren't shots that he was incapable of defending. Like, to me, it just looked like a complete lack of confidence. Like, oh, no, this is too big for me now. The things I've relied on, like my rock-solid backhand, all the things.
Yep.
Having great movement for someone that size, having decent touch. In every great match of all time, there's momentum shifts and drops. Like, how did they go from God mode to falling in a gutter? Like, that happens in every great match, but he just dropped off in a way that I don't think I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and since, in that third set, Alcaraz led 5-2, but from that point on, and it looked like at 5-2, okay, Alcaraz, he's going to be 2-1 up. It was quite obvious what we were witnessing and what we were looking at. But from that point on, Zverev, he started standing deeper in the court on return, okay, started ripping the ball as hard as he could from that position in the court, okay, especially mainly the backhands, which is one of the great shots in world tennis. But then it was also the forehand. Once he was in those points, the forehand was surprising, where it was like, I'm ripping that too. It was like he was just like, I've got nothing to lose here. I'm going to go down swinging in this third set, and then we'll rejig and we'll take a look at set 4, what I do tactically. But the onslaught never stopped, and before he knew it, it was 5-all. And when Zverev broke serve to lead 6-5 in that third set, it was like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Really, what have I just witnessed in the last 20 minutes? He was actually, out of the 25 points played from 2-5, where he trailed in the third, he won 20 points and lost 5. I mean, he was just dominant from the back of the court.
Has he ever been better through half a set than that?
I hadn't seen it. But also as well, the quality of the opponent, and the setting. A French Open Final, Grand Slam final.
The pressure and Alcaraz won the tournament, the best clay court player this year.
Well, yep.
Is on the other side of the net.
Yep, that's exactly right. And, a guy who was Alcaraz, we're talking about, a guy who, has a slam on both grass and a hard court, and then he ticks the box with the clay court.
Yeah.
But I really think that he's able to tick that box because Zverev, he found the formula in that third set when he was looking at the brink of being down, at 5-2 down. It's clearly not looking too good for the big man. He just throws caution to the wind, starts blasting from the back of the court. Alcaraz is backing up off the baseline, looking around, going, geez, what's happened here? I've let this Grand Slam final slip.
Yeah.
And, Zverev, 20-5, from 2-5 down, takes a 2-1 lead, comes out, has all the momentum, and then starts jawing with his father in the box, who looks as confused as anybody. And I was sitting there going, now I'm confused. What? He's 2-1 up. He's just played the best, probably 25 to 30 minutes of tennis of his life. He should be happy. He should be free. He should be, feeling a release of pressure.
Yes.
Okay, let's keep this going.
He'd shoveled all of that back onto the other side of the net.
He had. And then in the brink of, 2 to 5 minutes, the body language was concerning, and it was like, I just didn't understand it. And, a lot of the broadcast team didn't understand it either. They were confused because he was right there on the brink. The next, obviously 2-1 up, the next 10 to 15 minutes, hey, let's lock down. Let's take care of the serve. Let's see what Alcaraz can produce from the back of the court. Let's not give anything free away. But his body language and his, you could actually see the tension all of a sudden come into his body, where it was like, oh, now I'm in front. Now I've got to be the front runner.
Yes.
I've got to close this out. And he was a long way from the finish line. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like it was 3-all, 4-all. A long way from the finish line. He should not have felt that way. He needed to bring that back and say, right, hey, I've got out of jail there. I'm 2-1 up. Let's just make a lot of balls. Let's see if Alcaraz can lift his level of play. He's the one that's got to go to another level now. I don't have to. But his level just completely fell away. And you just cannot do that, especially against, you're in a Grand Slam final, and Alcaraz really didn't have to go to another level. He just had to maintain the level that he was at, because Zverev come so far off the cliff that it was just a complete disaster. Yeah. And Alcaraz, it coincided with the fact that Alcaraz was like, okay, I'm going to hit my forehand, I'm going to dictate. And Zverev was just playing defense from then on out, and you could feel the tension and the pressure. And he was never the same player.
Yeah. I think that pretty much sums it up. I wouldn't say that it was by any means the best that Alcaraz had played during that tournament. I saw him play mostly in longer style highlights, 8 to 10 minute packages, because as we've talked about in the past, it wasn't particularly friendly viewing for us here in Australia with our free-to-air coverage being so limited. But I don't think it was the best I'd seen him play, and definitely not the best I'd seen him hit the ball during the French. But and I would say, and I don't like to anoint people Novaks on Nadals or Federers, but he does have, in my opinion, out of all of the players in the world at the moment, what I would say is the highest base level, which is what I would have said probably about Federer more so than anyone ever. His worst level is still that much higher than tour average. So Alcaraz just needed to stay there and go for it just a little bit more, which we know he's capable of, because he might have the highest peak by a few percentages as well when he's absolutely smoking. But he didn't even need to get to that, because Zverev went from literally the best that I'd ever seen him play. Mm-hmm. It's like, holy moly, this guy is literally unhittable out of nowhere for a set that mattered for his career. Mm-hmm. And then to just, I know we're dwelling on this a little bit more than we said we would, Colby, but it's super fascinating to me. You as someone that's been in matches that are competitive at the levels that you played at.
Yep.
Do you think he had a sense that before anyone else, I can't maintain this? And he felt that in his body maybe before his game started to show it, and he convinced himself he just couldn't stay at that level?
Yeah, I think there's some shock value to it as well. From 2-5 down, you're probably in a mental state where it's like, hey, look, I need to regroup kind of for that fourth set. Listeners out there are probably thinking like, oh, does that really happen, at that level, with these players? Yeah, absolutely they do. They've got to conserve energy. You're playing over 5 sets in a slam. You've got to think long term.
Some people would have let that go.
Yeah, you've got to think long term. I need to give everything I can for set 4 and possibly set 5. So, he just comes out all guns blazing. Before you know it, all these balls are going in, and that's what he's capable of. He's capable of painting lines and hitting as heavy as anybody in the world. He does that, and then he finds himself, 2 sets to 1 up in the French Open Final, where 25 minutes earlier on, he never could see that really in his mind. So there was a lot going on for him mentally there at that moment in time. And, that first 10 to 15 minutes of that fourth set, that means everything. Yeah. And we weren't even at the 5-minute mark, and he was showing signs of stress and discomfort out there already. And, Alcaraz, even though he's, in terms of his age, in reality, is young, he's mature beyond his years. You don't win Grand Slam finals if you can't emotionally handle, the moment, the bright lights, and the pressure of those big matches. And he's played a lot of big matches, of course.
And he's been behind in big matches, and he's lost a few.
Yes. Yep.
So he hasn't just been someone that's only been successful and that's it.
Yep.
Like a prodigy.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on the losing end of some epic matches, like the Cincinnati Novak match, which is one of the great 3-set games that I've personally seen. Yep. Like that was a up and down seesaw where there wasn't just one emotional change. There was multiple dips and multiple raises in level, which is what the 5-set format forces onto the match. The longer it gets, the more times you're going to have ups and downs that you've got to negotiate, like the roller coaster.
Yep.
And maybe that's why Zverev has been as good as pretty much, other than the greatest players ever. He's probably the next best in the short form. Yep. He's got World Tour finals. He's got a gold medal. He's been in times almost unbeatable in those short formats, because he doesn't maybe have to go through more than maybe one dip or rise in form, or he just starts out blasting it and in 2 sets he's won the match.
Yep.
Because he has, in some of these longer matches, dropped off the level more than I've seen from any player at that level.
Well,
top 10 players shouldn't have a base that's that low versus how their standard level is.
Yep. And I hadn't seen, maybe in the earlier rounds, in the early part of his career, where he really struggled to, even make 4th round of some of these major championships, considering his
pedigree.
His pedigree and his short form. We say short form in terms of the 3-set format. A bit of a 3-set specialist,
a beast,
to say that, so to speak. So in terms of his level coming off where it needed to be, it was alarming that it occurred at that moment in time where so much was on the line. The French Open, his clay, I think, is probably his best surface, really. Obviously very good on a hard court as well, but clay, when he did his injury there against Nadal a couple of seasons ago, he had Nadal really on toast in that epic match. He's done well to come back. And it was right there, and everything happened so quickly in the space of 20, 25 minutes And it happens, the deer in headlights scenario. We could see it firsthand. The first couple of points of that fourth set, Alcaraz noticed it, his team noticed it, and from then on, it was just a matter of time. If Alcaraz made enough balls and moved him around and made it more of a sort of a physical battle, and it was an emotional battle up until that point as well. And that's the one area with Alcaraz where I think he's still got that vulnerability. You can still get at him, and we saw it. He led 5-2. He's cruising, plays a couple of loose points, serving for the set. The door is slightly ajar, and Zverev, blasts the door down. He kicks the door down, Bruce Lee style, basically. And then Alcaraz was, so he comes off his mental level, Alcaraz. Yeah. He's still got that little bit of showtime about him where it's like, hey, I'll hit the fancy shot here, or I'll hit the drop shot here instead of just playing Novak style, rock solid brick wall. Yeah. I'm not going to come off my level. And I think that's still the vulnerability that you can get at Alcaraz. Sinner is a player that doesn't show that same vulnerability. He maintains his level.
Point to point, but probably the most consistent player at the moment.
But the Alcaraz level is higher than really where everybody else is at the moment. Yeah. Just when he comes off mentally. And that's why I think coming up the second part of the year after the French Open, Wimbledon, we'll get into talking about that. Those matchups are going to be fascinating with Novak playing as well. Novak's like a boa constrictor. Mentally, he's going to be at the same level for 3 hours plus. Alcaraz is not. He's going to be like the Harlem Globetrotters for the first hour. Then he's going to look like a club player for 10 minutes. And then, he's got to work his way back into it. He's still not, and that's this frightening thing for these guys on tour. If he's able to, when he's able to get that consistency of mental performance where it's like, I'm not going to give you anything free. I'm just going to play at this incredible elite ball striking level.
Yeah. And when I'm going down, I'm going to set a base that just stops.
It's over. It's going to be over for the rest of the tour.
Well, that's what Nick Kyrgios said.
Yeah, because I think that over a season, on average for those top 10 players, they're playing probably on average 70 matches, a season over the 11 months, 12 months before they come back down to Australia. We could see a season where he goes 65-5 or something like that. Some of the best seasons that we've seen on tour. McEnroe had an epic one back in the day. Federer, when he was invincible. Novak's had a couple of crackers. Yep. But we could see that. We could see him go, 65-5 or 65-3, something like that.
He'll have a couple of those Novak, Federer, 40-3, and then they might win another 20 or 30 matches after that. So over the course of a year and a half, they might have set 2 or 3 small records for consecutive match wins, lose a few here and there for whatever reason, then go on another run.
Yep.
I can easily see him doing that.
So I think that's the the one thing that stands out with me with Alcaraz. He still sort of has that vulnerability where it's like a roller coaster when you're watching his matches, especially over the 5-set format where, it's longer. Where with Sinner, it's just workmanlike. With Novak, it's like, oh, he doesn't look like he's playing that well, but he leads 6-3, 6-2. Okay, no worries. Alcaraz, we get the flashy shot making, we get the dips in performance, but that's why he's putting bums on seats.
Yeah, I was happy that between the two of us, we picked early the 2 guys that made the final, and I thought that Alcaraz was probably the favourite. I probably wasn't taking quite as big a swing there, even though I think by that point he would have only been maybe, the 3rd seed, if Novak was still number 1 at that point, and then Sinner would have been 2. Yeah, so I don't know if it was really that big a call by me, but you had Zverev early, which was probably a little bit more of a dark horse call to think that he would make the final, and he did.
Yep.
And unfortunately, we can't say that he gave it away because Alcaraz just took it back off him when he fell in level. He's like, well, you're done. You're toast. And I'm going to go up just enough to crush you.
Yep. And it was all based around the forehand. He hit the forehand as heavy as he did throughout the whole match in sets 4 and 5.
Yep.
And with heavy spin, dominated in that part of the game. And we know that the Alcaraz forehand is got a little bit more juice, a little bit more reliability than the Zverev forehand under pressure.
Yeah.
We saw that. Unfortunately, Zverev emotionally fell away, and that opening is why he paid the price and why he's still searching for that first slam title.
Yep, and as you said, and I just referenced before, Nick Kyrgios said a couple of years ago, this guy's already terrifying but he's not even as good as anywhere near what he'll be when he's complete.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be over, I think was his exact quote.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah. And there isn't two other all-time greats hanging around that are going there with him either. It's pretty much just him and then maybe Sinner.
Mm-hmm.
If Sinner can just find maybe something else magical in his game that he can just add, shots that no one else can possibly do. Alcaraz has got that, but in a sense of just power. And clearly, the longer the matches get, the harder it is for anyone to beat Alcaraz. But I can't see that there's going to be multiple people moving there with him like there was in the previous generation.
Yeah, there's a bit of a separation there between those two guys. You know, Sinner and Alcaraz, and you know Holger Rune. He's dropped away now. You know, he's gone from that top. May have even been top 5, was he? Or 6, 5, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, he was
there.
in the 6, 7-ish range, I think.
You know, he's back to 15 now. So that's a big difference. You know, if you're 15 in the world and top 5, huge difference. Doesn't seem that much. But you're talking, that's 15 match wins per year at ATP Tour level, at 250 level and above. That's an extra 15 wins.
Yeah.
So that's a physicality thing. That's a mental thing. That's a travel thing.
Yes.
So Rune, he's got some things to work out. And we talk about this all the time. Once you're established into that top 10, now the challenge is staying there and performing year in, year out, and not getting bored, staying hungry. And that's why, the three guys that we talk about a lot on the show, Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, that's what makes their feats even more remarkable because they've done it for 20 years plus. Incredible.